Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about, the law of attraction. I had something happen on my computer. Apologies. This is the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I'm a transformational life coach, and I'm in San Diego, California. It's sunny where you are. It's super cloudy and
Well, it
overcast.
has not been sunny in North Hollywood, California, for quite a while, actually. We've had
Okay.
a lot of clouds, a lot of rain. As anybody who watches the news probably knows, yeah, California's been getting pounded with our share of precipitation lately. But yeah,
Making up for last year.
um, it is actually it's been back and forth this morning so far. But
Okay. I
we
love
wanted to
that.
thank you all for listening or watching, whichever you're doing today. And we just want to let you know also that we often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. If you're not familiar with them, Esther is a speaker and author who channels someone or some folks called Abraham. I never know how to say that. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can Google or search on YouTube for Abraham Hicks and learn more about them there. You can also find out more online at abraham-hicks.com. I did want to say before we get into our normal kind of mode of discussion here, Stephanie, that this is going to be season 5, which still blows my mind that we're in season 5. Um, but season 5, episode 15, and we forgot to check as to when our 100th episode overall would be, and it was actually the final episode of season 4, so it was actually 15 episodes ago. But I just wanted to mention that, and then especially just thank everyone who listens to the podcast on their podcast platform, however they listen to us there, the audio version, and
Round of applause to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
everyone who's
You're the
ever
best.
watched the YouTube version that we have on our YouTube channel. Thank you for that. I also wanted to give a special shout out to our newest subscriber, Lainey, who commented on actually an old episode from season 1 recently, but also subscribed to the channel this week. So thank you, Lainey, so much. She also
Thank
wrote
you, lady.
her comment was very long and just offered a lot of glowing praise for that episode. So I really appreciate
Thank
that she
you.
took the time to do that. Yeah, and I did want to mention too to people like if you, especially if you're listening to the audio version only, if you want to take the time, we'd be more than happy if you want to go on one episode of YouTube. And actually, it doesn't matter because we get alerted no matter which episode you do this on. But if you want to leave us a comment and just give us your first name and tell us that you've been a listener for a while,
Oh my God. I would
we
love
would,
that.
yeah, we would love to thank you
Oh,
by name.
yeah,
Totally understand if
absolutely.
people don't want to do that, but if you want to do
Yeah.
that, we'd be more than happy to.
Oh,
So
I want to know who you are.
yeah, it's cool
Thank
to
you.
thank people by name. Um,
Hmm.
so anyway, so each week here on the podcast, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. This week, I thought it would be good to talk about something. It's somewhat related to what we talked about in last week's episode. Last week's episode, we started off talking about how, um, you can misinterpret the law of attraction and what's spoken about around it as a way of beating yourself up. It's like, oh, this bad thing happened to me and it must have been my vibration, so I'm just going to beat myself up about that. And we basically said, don't do that. that's not
We
that's
don't
not
recommend that at all.
not
We
not
actually want the
endorsing
opposite of that. We
recommending that.
want you to be like, oh, I did that thing I don't like so much.
so
Oh,
we
I
so
did
we
that thing I
talked
love so much.
Yeah, so we talked all about that last week. But something that's connected to that for me that I think is important to talk about, and honestly, I don't hear Abraham talk about this all that much. And if you have a different view, you can let me know, Stephanie. And it's not mentioned a
Think I
lot
won't?
in The Secret. But it's the topic of like self-love, really loving yourself.
Mm.
Because I think if you don't love yourself for whatever reason and you're inwardly critical or you have self-hatred going on, which I think a lot of people do. Like I feel like when I say like, oh, if you have self-hatred, people's first thought is like, well, I don't have that. And I don't think many people have that. But there's a lot of, without getting into any details, there's a lot of indicators in our world that a lot of people are struggling with self-hatred. and or self-loathing, or however you
Or
want to
just
view it.
dislike.
Yeah,
Maybe
not
maybe
liking yourself.
hatred is too strong of a word, and it maybe not to that degree.
Yeah,
But like you said, we can be really hard on ourselves, and that's
yeah,
not very loving and kind. Like we wouldn't do that to a friend, or some
right.
people might, but sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, yeah. That lit song is just so true, so true. Do you know that song?
I don't. At least if I do, I don't know the title.
Dun dun.
Can you give me some words?
Please tell me why. No, I guess you don't know it. Okay.
You'd
Um,
have to sing it for a little bit longer.
I hope
Yeah.
this doesn't get us. I hope this doesn't get this episode banned from YouTube. YouTube is getting better and better at like detecting if you have any copyrighted material in your episode,
Uh-oh.
and flagging it. And I'm just like,
Well, hopefully it won't, because I didn't get it. Maybe some of
yeah.
our listeners did. What band is it?
They're called Lit, Lit.
Oh, okay.
It's from
What's the name of the song?
I think it's called My Own Worst Enemy.
Oh, okay. Yep. Don't have that one.
Yeah, but no, so now I've totally lost my train of thought because I'm thinking about that Lit song in the video. Oh, well, I think that it can make. I was just trying to, and this is just a pure hypothetical, but I was just sort of trying to think of like, if someone really didn't like themselves, one thing that happens for those people is they try to figure out how do I, like my life is going awry. I don't like how my life is going. How do I fix it? Do I go to a therapist? Do I, watch a video on
That would
YouTube?
be a good idea.
You know,
I
um,
definitely did therapy when I
but I
was in
think
my 20s.
if oh yeah, me too. But if somebody like said, well, I wonder if this law of attraction stuff will help me. It could, but it could also be problematic because, like we were talking about last week, if you don't like yourself very much and you're inwardly critical, what can happen is your brain is looking for reasons to like justify why you're not doing well or why you're a failure or why you
Well,
don't
and
measure
then
up to other people.
momentum, the more we think certain thoughts, law of attraction is always responding. And so we build momentum.
Yeah.
And then before we know it, no one can stop us. I like Abraham's like, just go take a nap, go back to bed, or just start again in the morning. Like sometimes our momentum is so strong that there isn't much that could save us, especially if we get into that groove. I mean, even this morning, I woke up earlier than I expected because I went to bed late and I had a full day yesterday. But I did, and I was like, okay. And I started meditating, and literally I got out of the bed. I was so happy. And then a couple hours later, wasn't feeling that good. I'm like, what happened? And I just had gotten into this train of thought on this particular subject, and it was like, freak. And I didn't feel as good. I didn't really feel that good at all. And I think that's the beautiful thing about practicing the art of allowing is just starting to, if we start still feeling better, then I notice it sooner when I don't feel so good. And then I can pay attention to how I'm feeling, and then be like, and then know why. Because I only feel bad when I'm thinking something that's out of alignment with my higher self. We were talking about that in the last week episode about the reason why we have emotions. It's not about I did this thing, therefore I feel good, or that person did something, therefore I feel bad. It's that connection, that alignment or out of alignment with our higher selves. Call it inner being, your soul, whatever you want to call it. That's the primary relation I have with myself in this physical form, and then who I really am, the energy part of me. And that's all my emotions are about. And we don't get taught that. I didn't know that. I still
Yeah.
am still learning that, because I do the opposite, and I think it's outside. Well, so and so did this, that's why I feel that way. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah. I think the other thing that something I learned from Abraham that I still am not great at it. I feel like I need to remember it more often and practice it more often is like a lot of this is a gross overgeneralization, but I feel like a lot of self-help stuff sort of uses the approach of how to go from feeling terrible to awesome. And they might describe it as a process, but sometimes it doesn't seem that way. It's like, well, if you've got a frown, turn that frown upside down, you know? And it's like, one thing I really appreciate about Abraham is they talk, I mean, this resonated with me so much the first time I heard them, is they talk about an emotional scale.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that, like, I can't scientifically prove it, but it just feels like it matches my experience, which is that if I feel like the lowest I can feel emotionally, like I'm like, ugh, like I've had the worst day. I just, my mind is just in a bad frame of mind. I'm looking at anything. I think you called me the other day and I was not in a great frame of mind.
You think?
Which was really funny. Anyway, but we'll get back to that. But Abraham talks about this emotional scale, which is if you're all the way down the ladder, it's almost impossible to go from that to like genuinely super happy.
Yeah.
Like it's unfair to expect yourself to try to go from I am just more morbidly depressed to I'm going to be super happy and grateful for everything in my life. Like A, nearly impossible. B, don't try it.
Well, and you just said it. You can't expect yourself to go from A to Z. You just need to go A, B, C.
And so they talk about just fine. And this is something that I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh, they shouldn't do that. And I think it's brilliant, which is just try to find the emotion that's like one rung up the ladder from the one you're on. And so I forget exactly what the rungs are, but I remember her saying at one point, like if you are completely depressed, like the next rung up sometimes can be being pissed off and blaming
anger. Anger.
Yeah.
It's anger.
And getting mad at somebody else. And like that can be, and again, we're not endorsing like, oh, like go around the world like blaming other people. But it's like if you're in that specific situation, if you are just completely depressed and you feel terrible about yourself, getting angry at somebody else.
Or just, you don't have to get angry at someone else. You can just express your anger.
Well, for me, it's easier to get angry at someone else.
Just expressing it. And I always talk about expressing anger in a very healthy way. And there's many different ways that we can do that. Like I was driving the other day and just yell, like this guttural anger came from my abdomen. I was like, whoa, just screamed at the top of my lungs in my car. And then I laughed because I was like, where did that come from? But I felt better.
That's the thing. I mean, I think some people would be like, oh, if you feel depressed, why would you want to feel angry? That's also a negative emotion. It's like because it feels better. And you can get closer to feeling good by going up that ladder rather than trying to just like force yourself to switch from this emotional state of feeling depressed and be like, I'm just going to will myself into like feeling fantastic. Like, because anybody who's ever tried that is like, yeah, it doesn't work. Like,
you can't do it.
You're faking it. Like you can fake it, but you can't actually feel that way. And the problem is there that the law of attraction just, again, it's not a person, it's just a law. It goes off your vibration. So no matter how well you're faking happiness, if you feel awful inside, that's the vibration you're putting out. And you're going to attract more stuff you don't want into your life.
So I want to tell you this. So what day was it that you and I and Kelly were texting back? Oh, Friday. So Friday I was realizing that, I've got different stressors going on right now. And so I'm just and I've been riding my bike, which is my one go-to where it releases endorphins. It makes me happy. I release stress. I'm having fun. And so I'm like, oh, laughing. Like, what are some of the other ways that I can do? Walk out in nature and then laugh. So I picked up this in my YouTube. I have a bunch of different categories and I have one for laughing and I have all these videos in it, stand-up comedy, the Hump Day commercials by Geico, Camels, the remix. And so I was listening to this one, Mike E. Winfield, some of his earlier work. It was just laughing. It was so much fun. It helped me laugh. And I feel like laughing is a great way to relieve stress and make me feel better. And then a couple hours later, you send this. No, you didn't send it. I think Kelly had responded to one you had sent earlier in the week. It was a comedian. No, it was a new one. This comedian. You sent this and I watched it.
Was it the Ian Bragg thing about?
Yes. Oh my God. It was so great. And I didn't say it in the thread of the text, but I thought, oh my God, this is so hilarious because, a few hours later, a couple hours earlier, I was watching stand-up comedy and laughing. And here you send out of the blue this. And so so that was pre-paving. That was pre-paving by me taking care of myself and listening to some stand-up comedy and helping myself feel better by releasing some stress and laughing. I was pre-paving a future moment. And law of attraction brings together all cooperative components. And my friend Collin happened to be a cooperative component and text messaged me this YouTube. What was it, like a minute and a half long? It wasn't very long, right? 5 minutes? What
I think
was
it's
it?
about 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
5 minutes.
It's a routine called Hello David, and it's from the comedian
Oh my
Ian
gosh.
Bragg, Bragg.
It was so good. It was so
It's
good.
amazing.
I watched it a couple of times because I was having lunch and just watched it over and over again and laughed and so that's a great example of pre-paving. Pre-paving is I'm gonna make a point to feel good now, because if I do and my vibration is higher, then in my future moments I'm gonna attract something that's also gonna feel good. And we want you to practice feeling better no matter what. Like, you deserve it. Like, we all deserve to feel good. Like, life is supposed to be good for us. It's not supposed to be a downer and a bummer and like a drag and hard work and like can't wait to die because then I'll come back in my next life as happier and more joyful. It's like, no, today, like.
Well, that's also true, but that's another podcast.
True that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention when you brought up about, self-help books and how to get yourself from depressed to like overjoyed. I remember I had owned my condo and I was soaking in my tub and reading Norman Vincent Peale's Positive Thinking. And I think I was, dealing with some, I don't know if it was depression, but I just wasn't happy. And reading his book gave me hope. Reading his book kind of flipped a switch for me of that it could be better. And that did help me feel better in that moment by reading his book. And that's what we were talking about earlier about I can't go from A to Z, from depression to elation, but I can go from depression to is it anger? Like, I don't know that mine
So
would
I
be
was looking
depression or
at,
anger,
I'm looking at,
but
I'm
to
looking
just
at,
feel a little bit of relief. And that's what I got from reading his book.
yeah, I don't know if this is the official, I was doing some searching on the web here and yeah, I guess this is somebody who says they've transcribed what Abraham said in one of their books where they actually outline the different rungs of the ladder. And the bottom one is fear, grief, and depression. That's rung 22, which is as low as you can go. 21, one rung up, is insecurity and guilt. 20 is jealousy, and 19 is hate or rage.
That's interesting that is a higher vibrational level than some of those others.
Yeah, because at 22, the fear, grief, depression, I think the reason that that resonates for me, because if that's feeling, and it's sort of what I was talking about, self-hatred, it's like if you feel like you're wrong, everything about you is wrong, everything about your life is wrong, and there's no way to fix any of it, getting angry about that is somewhat empowering. It's not great, but it is different.
Well,
it gives you something to do rather than that 22 level is just, I might as well.
Like heavy and like, where the anger kind of brings some life into your body. Okay, I can see that now.
And there's a lot of rungs. Like I didn't remember this either, but there's a lot of rungs. So it's like, so 19 is hate and rage, 18 is revenge, 17 is anger, 16 is discouragement, 15 is blame, 14 is worry, 13 is doubt, 12 is disappointment. So it's like you can sort of see, like, if I say, how was your day today, Stephanie? And you say, I'm a little disappointed. And that's really how you feel. But if I say, hey, Stephanie, how are you feeling today? And you're like, I am completely depressed. You can hear how that's.
I totally heard it.
Disappointed is like,
yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah,
compared
right.
to that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, it's way easier to get from 22 to 12. Like, over a period of time,
Yeah.
to go from like completely hating yourself, your life, everything about it, not feeling there's anything you do, to like, kind of disappointed at how things have been going lately. Like, that's doable. Like, that's doable. Going from the 22 all the way to whatever number one is, which is like
Joy, right? Love and
total joy
joy.
and love. Yeah, joy, knowledge, freedom, total love and empowerment. Yeah, it's like,
Hello.
good luck. Good
We
luck
want
getting
to,
from depressed to that.
yeah, no. So what's the one below one, two? What do they describe two as?
So two is passionate. Three is
Mm,
enthusiastic.
mm,
Four is positive expectations.
mm,
Five is general optimism. Six is hopefulness. Seven is general contentment. Eight is boredom.
mm.
Nine
Now
is
we're starting to go down.
nine is generally pessimistic, and then it goes down from there.
I wonder where, so the 50, because they always talk about, even if you're just 51%, like feeling better, you're ahead
Yeah,
of the game. So where is that? Where does an allowing start?
I mean, for me, I think it starts at seven, maybe eight, boredom.
Okay.
But probably positivity seems to start at seven,
Which
contentment,
is
general
contentment.
contentment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But again, if you go halfway, halfway is disappointed. So I feel like, again, if you get to disappointed, you're halfway home. You're literally halfway home.
What's interesting is, after practicing the art of allowing for a few years, someone asked me, how you doing? And I'd be like, and then I was like, Steph,
That's great.
I was like, if I was to, and in my mind, it was not a good day.
Yeah.
And I had this happen. My friend was like, how you doing? I'm like, yeah. And I go, but honestly, you know what? If I told you what bothering me, you'd be like, what? There's nothing
That's
wrong.
not a
Like,
real thing. Yeah.
but because I was so used to being in those higher numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, for so long, that when I dipped below, it felt like it was such an exaggerated feeling to me, because it wasn't familiar. And so it just felt like icky.
Yeah.
But like, I often said that, like, well, if I told you how my day was, I think it's not a very good day. You'd be like, are you kidding me? That's not a bad day.
I feel like your which was perfectly verbally expressed, by the way, that I feel like that is 16. That is discouragement, general discouragement with how things are. And I think that's what people say when they're discouraged. They're like, eh. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing because, I started out this episode talking about self-love, and I think I found it generally important in my life to do things which include therapy, which include affirmation work, which include workbooks, to work on specifically my loving myself and my self-esteem, because if generally speaking, nobody else can fix that internal thing with me. Like,
Yeah.
if I have a tendency to feel awful within myself, or if I have beliefs that run in my head all day of like, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm a failure, I'm not as good as other people, that's not something another friend, I can't call you up, Stephanie, and go, can you fix this for me permanently, please? Because I'm tired of, that's my issue to deal with. However, that having been said, I think the route to loving yourself often involves, and that's whether you're talking about building it from the foundation within, but also just like I think what you and I do with each other sometimes is I need to call you and you express love for me, and what that does is it reminds me to love myself.
Or not even like the expression of love, but it's just being in those higher vibrations
Yeah.
that I draw you in.
Yeah.
And then you can feel that joy or happiness or appreciation or
Right.
laughter, whatever it is, and then you feel better. And whenever we feel better, like, that's always a good result, right? That's always a good
But
place.
for me, it is really easier sometimes. Like there are times where I'm feeling terrible, and even though I have tools like this emotional scale, I know this stuff. I could, okay, or who can I get angry about? Who could I try to think about revenge against? So I could move up the scale. It's often easier for me to call you or my sister Kelly or our other mutual friend Mary and just let you talk.
Hmm. Yeah,
And what that does is it just helps me get outside my own mind, my own
exactly.
sort
Yeah.
of internal,
Dialogue. The
yeah,
momentum is
analysis
grown and
paralysis,
it's
whatever.
like, oh shoot, somebody send me a life preserver.
Yeah.
Pull me out of
But
this muck.
I want to go back to something I brought up earlier, which is that normally I can't think of another time. Normally, if I'm in a bad spot, like I'm feeling terrible, you don't call me. And that's not because you don't care. It's I always feel like it's just you're down in San Diego feeling great, riding your bicycle at the beach, and this like, oh, life is good. And I don't occur to you, because I'm not on the same vibrational wavelength as you. Um, but this week I was in a terrible I thought
Ah,
I was in a terrible place, and
you weren't in a good place.
you called,
Well, I
and
called. Why did I call? I just wanted to connect. So
yeah, you want
obviously
to catch
my
up.
energy was not that great
Oh, okay.
because I called and I actually felt a little worse when we got off the phone. And I was like,
Oh no, I'm sorry.
dang.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
terrible.
what? So my bad. But anyways,
Well, because
and
the
I
weird thing is, I just assume that if you're calling me, you're in a good spot.
hey
So
honey,
I
not
remember
always,
the moment you said,
most of the time.
so you called me. I'm in a terrible state. I apparently am mistaken, but I think you're in a great state. And like, this is some weird, like, I don't know how this happened.
Anomaly. No, because here's a perfect example. Law of attraction. Always like attracts like, no matter what.
No, I
There are
understand.
no exceptions.
But the thing is that situation tricked me into feeling better because I assumed you were
Oh,
feeling
I
better.
left you feling better.
You did. You
Because I
did.
even said to you, you're welcome. Because you're like, thanks, I feel better. I'm
Yeah.
like, you're welcome. Because I knew I had. But then,
But the thing is that when you ask me, how are you? Or however you said that at the beginning, one thing that I really treasure about our friendship is I know that, like, if you ask me that and I am feeling bad, and really that's the only time I can remember this ever occurring, because normally you don't call me when I'm doing terrible. But I was like, I'm not going to do what I might do with somebody else, which is just spill how lousy I feel, because this is Stephanie and she's probably in a good place. So I should probably do whatever I can to talk about how, not deny how I'm feeling, but talk about it, either not talk about it very much or talk about it in a way that is light and doesn't go heavy and deep,
yeah,
and whatever. And so
yeah.
that immediately, when you said, how are you, that immediately triggered me into a state, which I can do, which is I just got funny. I just was like, I'm just
Yeah,
going to laugh at myself right now
yeah,
because I am crazy with depression and
yeah,
freaking
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And I'm just going to laugh about it. And so I don't remember exactly what was said back and forth, but I said something funny in response to or trying to be,
Yeah.
when you said, how are you? And I was like, something like, oh, I'm hanging on for dear life. Like, everything's
You said something,
fantastic.
you're like, I'm supposed to meet a friend in Santa Monica, but I'm like blah 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 blah. And yeah, we did laugh. Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that is what I observed about myself afterwards. Was before I saw, I picked up my iPhone and saw Stephanie in your picture on the phone. Before that, I was like, oh man, I'm in a really bad space. Like, I just know my history. Like, I have a tough time getting out of this bad space. And when I saw your name and photo pop up on the iPhone, I was really conflicted as about whether to answer, because I'm like, I don't want to bring Stephanie down, but at the same time, she's one of my best friends, and like, she might have an urgent situation, or like, just want to chat or whatever. And I'm like, and I am
Yeah,
free right now.
I wanted to connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having breakfast.
But I'm really sorry that you ended up feeling. So what about my?
We're not going to go there. We're at the end
Okay.
of this. We're at the end of this
Okay.
podcast. And we're going
Fair
to leave
enough.
it at that. But I'm glad you felt better. That's all. And it was really good to connect and chat.
So there was some good that came out of it.
There was. We laughed. Yeah. And I could hear that I was of service.
Okay.
Because your energy did shift, and that made me happy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the episode today, or watching us. We really appreciate everybody watching and listening. Remember, we're posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast.
Can we
liking
do
us,
this?
following us, whatever. All our social media links and our email address are in the description down the doodly-doo below. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.